Okay, thanks everyone for your patience. Welcome to our Aroma Reset and Aroma Boost training. Super excited to see all of you here today. As I mentioned, all month, I'm going to be covering different aspects, different techniques to get you guys up to speed on what we can do with Aroma Freedom. So happy to see you all. I'm Dr. Ben Perkus, the creator of Aroma Freedom, and I'm a licensed psychologist. And I've been using essential oils, Young Living oils, for 23 years now. So what I love most is combining the two. I really love helping people with their thoughts, feelings, memories, clearing out negative attitudes, clearing out trauma, doing that using the power of smell. This is what I've been focusing on exclusively for the last 8 years. And we have a lot to share with you. We have a lot of great tools. They're very simple. And tonight's presentation and experience is really about two of the most simple processes you're ever going to learn that are super powerful. And later in the month, we're going to get into some work with trauma. We're going to get into work with some setting goals and clearing out your blocks to achieving goals, which is obviously at the heart of Aroma Freedom. But today, we're going to be going over two really simple tools that you can use. So first of all, is there anyone who would like to share an experience you've had with Aroma Reset or Aroma Boost, just to kind of give people a flavor of what you can do or how you use it in your life instead of me doing all the talking? Anyone like to share? Anne Hummeldorf. Thank you, Anne. Go ahead.
So a few years ago, my family of 5 were in our family room, and it was Saturday morning, and it was apparent that we were just all grumpy. And I actually had my family stand in a circle, and we did an aroma reset together. Took about a minute, and we were just in such a better mood afterwards. It, really protects family time.
Love it. Yeah, so she's talking about a group aroma reset, and anything you do individually in Aroma Freedom, you can also do as a group. So using it with your family, obviously those closest to you, really wonderful. Anyone else like to share how you use Aroma Reset or Aroma Boost? Rusty, yes, thank you.
Well, I use it a lot. I've done over 300 people in the last 9 months. And this last Friday, I had a woman who wanted to do it, and she was a total mess. And of course, I don't know why. And then Saturday, she texted me and said, "I will pay you anything you want. Can you come to your office and meet with me?" And I said, "Why don't we do it on the phone?" She says, "No, I want to do face to face." I said, "Okay." She came, she brought her wife, and she was a total complete mess. And I still have no idea why. So we went through a whole bunch of them, and she was doing better, but she was still not coming around. Finally, I had the idea to put some Sarah on a cotton ball. And I didn't say anything to her. And I handed it to her. And within 5 seconds, she goes, "Oh, I'm fine now. I'm a 10. And I was like, so shocked. And I said, "Do you want to know what that was?" And she said, "Yeah." And I told her, and she goes, "Oh, that makes a lot of sense." So I talked to her Sunday, and I talked to her today, because she was the strangest case I'd had. And she said she's doing really, really, really well. And that was just today. But I have stories like this for every day. And I started reading the book this weekend, and I had 3 major breakthroughs this weekend. I mean, it's just, I'm like higher than a kite right now. So thank you again. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Rusty holds the record for doing the most sessions in 9 months. Rusty she's a doctor of acupuncture. And so she was able to very quickly, as soon as she was in the training certification program, just very quickly took it to her patients right away. And she was able to shift people's mood and emotion so quickly. They loved it. She loved it. She was hooked. And so thankful for all the love you've been spreading through this process. And for showing up as well. Appreciate it. Okay, great. So, all right. So I'm not going to do too much as far as introduction, since most of you know me. Is anybody who, if there's anybody on, if this is your very first Aroma Freedom training, I'd love to see. I'm assuming most of you have seen at least something but I see Elizabeth, Cynthia. I just put in the chat box, actually, if you're brand new, just type in brand new. Just really quickly, people love Aroma Freedom because it's very easy and gentle. You're going to feel energized and confident afterwards. You can use it on yourself and others. There's no diagnosis involved. This is a non-medical procedure. We're not diagnosing or treating anything in Aroma Freedom, so it's safe for lay people to use and to use on others as well. You know, as long as you're not promising that you're getting rid of their depression or anxiety or anything like that. We're using Young Living oils, and we'll go into a little bit about some of the specific oils we use. But the Young Living line is so pure and beautiful that almost any oil you pick up and use is going to have some effect. The more you have handy, the better it is. Like as Rusty was saying, for those of you who don't know, SARA stands for sexual abuse and ritual abuse. And it's just something that Gary Young, the brilliant genius that he was, in a way that I can't explain or understand, found a way to put oils together that will reach in for those specific types of trauma, even if, you know, as Rusty was kind of pointing out, even if they never said where it was coming from, you didn't know where it was coming from, if you follow your intuition, you're probably going to find an oil that will unlock what you need to unlock. Thousands of people worldwide use this process, so my goal is to have a few thousand more use it. So thank you all who are on for the first time. So what we're doing with Aroma Freedom, we're dissolving negative thoughts and feelings, and we're creating new and more empowering beliefs, but we're doing it in a way that comes organically from inside. As you process and release negative memories, thoughts, feelings, spontaneously you get this inner wisdom that comes through you. And that's what's so beautiful about it. You don't have to, like as a therapist, I don't have to tell anyone what to think. You wouldn't want to anyway, but I help them get to the place inside where their wisdom comes through. And it helps you take meaningful action in the direction of your goals. I went over this last week in the introduction, so I'm not going to go through everything about this today, but just to show you where we are tonight, we are focusing specifically on these two techniques, Aroma Reset, which is really grounded right in the present situation and just clearing out the emotion from that. And we're going to move into the Aroma Boost, which is just going a little bit into the future. And you'll see there's a natural progression from the Aroma Reset to the Aroma Boost. So that's why I'm teaching both tonight. They're both simple and they really go together like peanut butter and chocolate. Okay, so generally speaking, we're going to be moving from what we call a stuck state, which is when we kind of just have all this static in our head. We're locked up. Our emotions have kind of shut our brain down, and we feel overwhelmed, we feel frustrated, we feel that we can't move forward. And we want to move from that state to a state where we're very productive, but in a very calm and peaceful and natural way. And that's really what you're going to achieve when you use Aroma Reset and Aroma Boost. Now, all of the Aroma Freedom processes really are about integrating 4 aspects of consciousness. So as far as foundational concepts for all of Aroma Freedom, this is one of them. And you'll over and over, as you go through the techniques, as you hear me talk, I'm going to be like a broken record. We're always looking for these 4 pieces, because this is really, when you have these 4 pieces, then you really are on the path towards wholeness. So in the 4 pieces are, well, this chart says memories, feelings, thoughts, and physical sensations. And so this is a chart that I used to use when I was talking specifically about traumatic memories. A lot of you have an interest in trauma, how to clear out traumatic memories. We're going to be talking about that, I think, next week. And Aroma Freedom was born with trauma. It was born working with traumatic memories. And one of the insights came when I realized that we can clear not just stuff that happened from the past, but we can clear stuff that's happening right now. And so in the place of memories in this chart, you can put image. So it's an image of anything. The image could be from the past, as in a memory. It could also be an image of something happening right now, which is what we're going to talk about today. Or it could be an image of something that has never happened, some worry you have about the future. And that's Aroma Wisdom, which we're going to get into in a week or two as well. So these 4 aspects of consciousness, basically Aroma Freedom is so simple because all we're doing is we are just asking simple questions. The simple questions are, What is the image? What are you seeing? How do you feel about it? Where do you feel that feeling in your body? And what's the negative thought attached to that? The different techniques ask the questions in a different order sometimes, but this is all we're asking. And once you're aware of all those pieces and you smell an essential oil, something really magical happens. And the memory starts to fade, the image starts to change, the feelings calm, the body relaxes, and then the thoughts in some magical way start to turn positive. They go from negative to neutral to positive. And it's still amazing every time I see it happen. And we have some understandings of why this happens, and we'll talk about that in a different class as well. But that's basically all we're doing. So before we get into the techniques themselves, a few more basics just to help you understand. And this is explained, by the way, it's explained in both books. But I do talk about it in the first book, and I don't want to leave out a discussion of the first book because this is really what started it all. And it's a great companion to the new book. The new book explains everything in greater detail. But I do explain in the first book, it's a chapter on emotional balance, and I talk about the cycle of emotion and why we start having certain feelings, and then how we use emotions to get our needs met and move along. But as you'll see, one of the skills that, if you're going to use Aroma Freedom on yourself or on others, one of the main skills that you need to develop is naming feelings. Naming feelings is magical. Naming feelings is just as magical as smelling oils. And there's something about it that accomplishes this, it kind of like begins this shift from feeling paralyzed or stuck or overwhelmed into feeling confident and moving forward, that sort of thing. So let me just talk a little bit more about feelings. Well, what are feelings? First of all, we use the word all the time, but what do we actually mean? Yeah, Katie Hussey says, I couldn't name my feelings until after being introduced to AFT. Yeah, a lot of people never were trained to name their feelings, men especially, but also a lot of women. And depending on the household you were brought up in, some households didn't talk about feelings, or you were shamed to talk about your feelings, or you were told that you shouldn't have those feelings. And so you tried to avoid certain feelings. Like a lot of people have trouble feeling anger. They can feel other things, but they don't want to feel anger. Trouble is, when you shut down one emotion, you kind of shut down all your emotions. So basically feelings they're information, really, information about how your life is going. What we call them semi-conscious perceptions about how well our projects are faring and whether our needs are being met. So let me explain what I mean by that. Those are a lot of words. So they're semi-conscious. What does that mean? Semi-conscious means that we're aware of them sometimes, or even when we are aware of them, we're not sure what they totally mean. Have any of you ever cried and weren't sure what you were crying about? Has that ever happened to any of you? Or you were feeling nervous, but you didn't know what you were nervous about? Or you started panicking and you didn't know why you were panicking, right? So feelings kind of have this ability we can be aware of them without really understanding them. So they're kind of in this neutral zone. So feelings are kind of like, it's kind of like our first, how do I say this? So imagine like you're an explorer and you're exploring a new territory. And first you're coming in on airplane. And so as you first come in an airplane, you kind of see everything from a distance. You kind of get a broad scope. Is it green? Is it brown? Are there mountains? You know, is it lush? Is it dry? So you kind of get a basic sense, but you can't really see stuff that well. And then as you zoom in closer, or you land and you explore on the ground, then you really learn what the landscape is like. Well, feelings are kind of like that. They're kind of our first pass view of what's going on in our life. So as an example, if you meet someone and you start to get this feeling like, I don't know if I like this person, this doesn't feel right, something doesn't feel safe here. You know, you don't know you can't put your finger on what that is. And then maybe later, as you get to know them, or you kind of try to ignore that, and then later they betray you and you realize you were feeling something and you didn't quite know how to think about it. Or maybe they don't betray you, they're perfectly fine, but they remind you of your uncle who was menacing to you as a child. And so your feelings actually weren't about this person at all. They were about something from the past. So this can happen sometimes. Our feelings can can be confusing, especially when we have unresolved feelings from the past. Again, we'll get into past issues in a later training. There are also perceptions about danger versus safety. On the most fundamental level, we're always asking this question, am I safe or am I in danger? And people who've been through trauma, they get sensitized to perceiving danger everywhere, and which is understandable because it's a survival response to perceive danger, even maybe when there isn't danger. But as another example of feelings, like let's say you just get a phone call and your best friend tells you that they accepted a new job and they're moving to Alaska. And you kind of get this feeling in your heart, and maybe you start tearing up and you start feeling sad, and sadness is basically a perception that you're of an impending loss, either a loss that's about to happen or maybe a loss that is happening or has already happened. So it's telling you that your relationship is threatened, there's something that's going to be a rupturing of some type. First, you feel it as sadness. But sometimes you're not even aware of that. Let's make the example a little different. Let's say, your coworker tells you they're moving to Alaska, and the next day you find yourself moping around and sad, and you can't understand why, because you didn't really feel like you were that close to your coworker. That's maybe a good example where you can be surprised by your emotion. And it's only in processing it that you realize that you realize you actually are going to miss that person. You didn't think you would, but the sadness is your system telling you, well, this is actually going to hurt a little bit. So that's what feelings are. And the reason why it's so important to name feelings, there's something that happens when a feeling is named. Our system kind of knows how to respond. We know what to do with it. The example I give is, let's say you're walking along and you're walking home and you hear this rustling in the bushes right by your front door. And you immediately, your heart starts racing. You don't know what's going on. You're wondering, is there an intruder there? Is there someone who is threatening in some way? And then you see a squirrel that darts out from the bushes, and you realize that was the sound. It was actually just a squirrel. Well, what happens? You start to relax. Why do you start to relax? You start to relax because your system now knows how to deal with it. What was this kind of diffuse threatening situation now is something that you know how to deal with. Now, even if it wasn't a squirrel, even if, let's say, it was an intruder and they come out of the bushes, well, it's not that that's good, but your alarm bell now clicks into action, and now you get an opportunity to deal with that. You're either going to run away, or you're going to pull out your gun, or you're going to call the police, or you're going to do something as a response to that threat now that you know what it is. So clarifying is always a good thing, even if you're not happy with what you realized. It lets you know how to deal with it. So we work a lot with clarifying feelings. So as a related thought, we're going to say, well, what are emotions? If that's what feelings are, because feeling and emotion are often used interchangeably. Emotions are, in my sense of emotion, they're motivating forces that actually drive our actions and reactions. So the feeling of fear, the feeling of nervousness when you hear the bushes rustling, you're still in the feeling space. You don't have an emotion yet because you don't have a motivation. You don't know what to do because it's still confusing. Okay, but if you realize that there's a threat, now your emotion of alarm, your fear can kick in and you can run away, or your fear might turn into anger if you're in a position where you feel you can fight. Again, every situation is different. Sometimes it's better to fight, sometimes it's better to run away. But the emotion is giving you the energy and the direction to know where to take that. So you hear me use the word feeling more than emotion, but sometimes we'll use it interchangeably because some people understand the concept of emotion better, or the word of emotion better. Okay, so just a little more on feelings, and then I'm going to show you how we use this stuff in real life. This feelings wheel, depending on how big your device is, you may or may not be able to see this. You can always Google feelings wheel, and you see a ton of them that come up. This is one of my favorites. And just briefly, I'll show you. It has it broken into, now there's no exhaustive list of emotions that I've ever found, but over here on the left, these are the feelings when your needs are not met. So these are what we call the negative feelings. And this one breaks it into 6 categories. There's the angry feelings, which includes anger, but also things like frustration, annoyance, envious. Mad is just kind of another word for anger, but disgust is a negative emotion, feeling repulsed. Fear, of course, and fear has anxiety, vulnerable, scared are all part of fear. Interestingly, surprise is a really important emotion to be aware of and feeling to be aware of. Overwhelm is in the surprise category. Overwhelm is one of the biggest issues we deal with, and it's actually one of the ones that we use Aroma Reset a lot for, feeling overwhelmed. So this is where, when would you feel overwhelmed? Well, when you're looking at a situation and you don't know what to do. You don't know where to start, it's too complicated, or you don't feel confident breaking it down, or you haven't broken it into pieces yet. So you're in this overwhelmed place. Sadness, this is really, like I said, loss. Depression, grief, those all fall in sadness. Shame is another important feeling to be able to name. Awkward, guilty, embarrassed, humiliated. Really, these are self-judgmental feelings. Then we have the positive feelings. Those are a little easier to name. We're not going to worry too much about those today, although in the boost, we're going to get into the positive feelings a little bit. But what I encourage you to do, and we do this in a training program as well, is if you're having trouble naming feelings, I highly suggest you Google and get a copy of a wheel like this and print it out and use it. I tell my clients, I have them print it out, put it right in their fridge. And when they're going through a situation, they don't know what's going on, or they don't know how to handle their life. First, name the feeling, and naming the feeling goes a long way. One more, it can be hard to read all this, but the mood meter is another way of categorizing emotions. And it's also, again, helpful if you are having trouble naming how you feel. Mood meter breaks emotions into 2 main dimensions. Pleasantness, so highly pleasant is to the right, highly unpleasant is to the left. And energy, whether it's a high or low energy, so a high energy emotions are up towards the top, low energy emotions are toward the bottom. So that gives you 4 main quadrants. So basically, you can just ask yourself, how am I feeling? Well, I don't know how to put it into words. Well, do you feel low energy or high energy? Start there. Well, kind of low energy. I'm feeling okay. And then you say, well, how unpleasant is it? Well, first of all, is it pleasant or unpleasant? Well, I don't feel very good, so it's unpleasant. So that you know that you're down in this blue quadrant. So then you just start noodling around here and say, well, is it depressed, sullen, desolate, exhausted? Like, is it really unpleasant? Then you know you're way down here, somewhere in the despair, despondent, pessimistic category. And so you just kind of can work through the feelings until you find one that really works for you. And again, it's not so much that there's one right answer, but the idea is to use the tools so that you can name how you feel, because there is something magical, as I say, when you name how you feel, something magical can happen. So let me just look at the chat and see if there's any questions here. Okay, Elizabeth says, I can't cry. Message from my mother, cry and I'll give you something to cry about. Yeah, does anyone remember that? That's old school, right? And I'm 79 and still carrying this. Yeah, sadly, this is not an uncommon message that people got. And so check and see if in your family, if emotion was frowned upon or actively discouraged, or expression of emotion, it's likely you're going to be shut down in that way until you break through. I went through a period of about 20 years when I didn't cry, actually. It was until I was in my late 20s, I had a breakthrough. It was before Aroma Freedom, but I've been working on myself for decades. And I remembered a situation when I was about maybe 8 years old, and I was really upset. My parents were going to be getting divorced, and I was really upset, and I was crying. And my father was being very, he was being very nurturing, and he was trying to help me, and he was asking me what was wrong. And I kept saying, I don't know. You know how kids do that? They say, I don't know. Often, it's not that they don't know, it's that they don't feel safe saying. So I was saying, I don't know. And then he was saying, well, I think I might have said something, well, something's missing, something's missing. So that's an example. I was feeling that sadness of something missing. And then so he said, well, is it your mother or is it the family? And I knew that's what it was because I was living with him at the time. And then later I lived with my mother. But I knew what it was, but I didn't want to hurt him by telling him that, because I knew he was the one getting divorced. In fact, she was kind of the one leaving. So that's a perfect example of, so what happened there is I never told him. And so instead I just shut down and stopped crying. And as time would go by, for 20 years, I never really cried. You know, there would be sad things that would happen and I'd just kind of be like floating above it. Finally, I had the breakthrough really when I faced this and opened everything up in my body. I started crying again, and it felt great. And it felt great to be able to cry, because we want to know that emotions, there's no such thing as a good or bad emotion. We can have negative emotions, meaning they're unpleasant. Doesn't mean they're bad, though. It doesn't mean they should be discouraged. It just means that they don't feel good. But it's a relief if you haven't been able to feel and express, and then you start it, then it feels much more free. And we get this all the time with Aroma Freedom as well. A lot of people who haven't been able to feel things or know what they feel. So yeah, some of you can relate to this. So okay, awesome. How you guys doing? So this is our background leading up to where we're going to start here. So you can see it's a lot more than an aromatherapy class. I'm a psychologist first, really, and aromatherapy as it applies to psychology for the most part, although we use oils, of course, for our primary healthcare system as well. But okay, so aroma reset. Now we're going to get started on this. So this, by the way, this information is in your book. It's going to be in the later part of the book, chapter 11. It says aroma reset technique to stay in the flow. And it goes through the 6 steps of aroma freedom. It talks a little bit about the concept that I mentioned about image, feeling, thought, and body is what makes our experience. The realization that we don't have to just be breathing the oil into a memory. We can also breathe it into a current situation. That's really the insight behind aroma reset. And it just walks through what that'll be like. I mentioned here as well an example that I experienced with my wife a few years back, where she and I were, I think we were folding clothes in the bedroom, and our cat was on the bed, and the cat started making this not choking, but like a coughing sound. And I knew exactly what it was. It was a cat about to throw up a fur ball. And this was our very fluffy cat that throws up fur balls regularly. So what did I do? Well, I immediately reached for the cat, picked her up, and set her on the ground. Well, we got on with the day. And then I noticed that my wife she seemed very agitated after that. And she wasn't focusing, and her words were kind of curt. And she got this, I know her well enough that she had this look on her face. I said, something's wrong. I said, what's wrong? And she said, well, when you reached for the cat, I thought you were going to hurt it. She didn't know what I was doing. And I said, oh, well, no, I was picking her up because she was about to cough up a fur ball. Aren't you glad that I saved our clothing and saved the bedspread? And she said, well, I just I just thought you were going to hurt it. And she could tell she was still stuck back there, right? So I said, well, let's do a reset, because we had the aroma reset at this time. I took her through the process. I had her remembering that in naming the feeling, and she felt alarmed and she felt afraid, and wherever she felt it in her body, and the thought, and then she breathed the oils in. Sure enough, after about 30 seconds, it just let go. How did it let go? Well, her system was able to realize no harm. Number one, my husband's not a cruel animal abuser. He had a reason for doing that. I just got triggered. But now that I see the situation and I'm breathing the oils into it, I realize everything's fine. Cat's fine. Everyone's fine. So she was able to let it go, which is what we should do with experience. We should be able to go through our life, feel whatever feelings are there, and then let them go. And whenever we can't, that's when we need a reset. So for you guys, this is where I want you to use the reset, is whenever you find yourself agitated about something, you're frustrated, you're overwhelmed, something happens and your mood is off. You might not even know why. You're just feeling off or down, or just do a reset. And first of all, that'll help you realize why you're feeling that way. And it'll also clear it out. So I tell that story in here. Okay, and we've been talking a little bit about the 7-day aroma reset challenge that we do in the certification class and how much that helps people by practicing this every day. Okay, so basically, and some of these slides are coming from, we have this nice little aroma reset booklet that we have available, and it's on the website as well. And it's just about 18 pages, just a short little thing, but it basically goes over a few slides about the sense of smell and, you know, why we get stuck, you know, like we get stuck because our emotions lock up, lose our ability to think. Talks about the sense of smell, how it affects the limbic system in the brain. And then it goes through the 6 steps. So I'm going to show you the 6 steps, and then we're going to practice it. So, and again, all of these are in the book. So first step, you're identifying the situation. Current situation feels overwhelming, frustrating, or confusing. Once you clearly picture it, go to the next step. Number 2, name the feeling. We talked all about that. And it has to be one word. And that one word instruction is really a magical instruction, because by making it one word, it stops us from overthinking, stops us from over-intellectualizing. You know, people might say, how do you feel? Well, I feel like she's angry at me. Well, that's not a feeling. That's a thought. That's a theory. How do you feel when you think that she might be angry at you? I feel nervous. Aha, now we're getting somewhere. Okay, you just named nervous. Where do you feel in your body? I feel my chest is tightening. Okay, now we're really getting somewhere. So naming the feeling has to be one word. Finding the feeling in your body. The reason we have to find it in our bodies is because this makes it even more active and alive for us. And also, if you can't find it in your body, it means you probably didn't name it properly. Like in that case, you might say, well, angry. Well, where do you feel angry in your body? Well, I don't feel angry in my body. You know, I just think she might be angry at me. Okay. Once you name it, nervous. Oh yeah, I can feel it in my chest. So you need to have the body involved, because that really keeps you kind of honest in a way. Okay. So, and then we identify the negative thought. Remember, we're always looking for those 4 pieces. Negative thought, it just kind of fills out the picture. It's not as important in this as the feeling. The feeling is the most important. It does help to kind of fill out and flesh out why you might be upset. So it's helpful that way. And there's no right or wrong answer to this. It's just whatever you are connecting, whatever usually you think it, or you might hear the voice in your head saying it. Either way is fine. The book is black and white, so it would be prohibitively expensive to print the book in color. So we didn't. But you can order. I have reference cards that I'll show you later. I actually put them on sale today because I'm trying to get my inventory balanced before we order more. So we do a full color charts, which really help you when you're going through the processes. Okay, and then you're smelling the essential oils. And yeah, there's my wife smelling essential oils. We took that picture out in California. And which oils we're using? Well, the lavender, frankincense, and stress away. That's kind of our classic recipe. That's right in the starter kit. That's why it's good for that. You could use just stress away by itself and you'd be fine. You could use trauma life and you'd be fine. There's a lot of oils you could use. As long as it feels calming and pleasant, you could use it in this process. And then once you've done that, and you'll see what happens, you'll experience it. You start to relax, you start to calm down. Then you kind of decide what's next. And there's a few options. One is if you feel better, like probably a third to a half of you the first time through, you'll be like, yeah, I feel ready to go. I feel good. Especially if it's a small little or recent thing that happened. So then you can just move on. Or you can go back and clear another feeling. So it may be that you feel a little bit better, but there's still something there. So then you go back and clear it again. Or you may realize, you know what, I've stumbled into a hornet's nest here and I realize I need to do one of the fuller, bigger techniques. That's possible also. So, so we're going to practice this and then get your feedback. And then I'm going to show you how we morph this into Aroma Boost. Okay, everyone. So now it's your turn. So everyone go ahead and, well, first of all, have some oils in front of you if you haven't gotten something yet. And go ahead and identify a situation. So think of some situation in your life that when you think of it, you feel some negative emotional charge. So it could be overwhelm, it could be frustration, just any situation that when you think about it, you feel some charge. And once you've identified the situation, now if there's 10 different things that are stressing you out, you don't choose all 10. That's one of the important things here. You can't deal with 10 things at once, so just choose one. And then, yeah, you can type in the words "got it" when you've identified the one. You could type in the situation if you want to, but you don't have to. This is something that's really just to make sure that you have chosen one. So once you've chosen one, just type in "got it." Good. So you're picturing that situation, and you're picturing it as an image, just whatever you imagine when you're picturing it. Okay. Now, name the feelings of the critical question. How do you feel when you picture that situation? That one word feeling: sad, hopeless, lonely, fearful, frustrated, irritated. Yeah. And just type the feeling word into the chat box. I do like to see the feeling words because sometimes we'll get a feeling word that's not really a feeling word, like lazy. Lazy is a judgment. So then I would ask, well, how do you feel when you judge yourself to be lazy? Sometimes people are unclear whether there's something that we would consider a primary feeling word or not. So far I'm seeing lots of feeling words. Yeah, uncertain of feeling: sad, anger, frustration, irritated, disgust. Yep. Panic. Rejected, that's a great one. So I used to not allow rejected as a feeling word because it felt like it was kind of still depending on something with other people. Usually with something like that, sadness is the primary underneath it. However, feelings about that you are of low value to others is its own category of feeling. So rejected, betrayed, abandoned, even, all of those. As long as you can find it somewhere in your body, then we allow it. And if you're confused about one of those, then just see if sadness captures it. So Ashley says, do I need to further define lack of control? Well, here you go. You have to get it to one word. So yes, if you're using more than one word, then you don't have it yet. So then you just say, okay, well, how do I feel when I don't have control? And as a practitioner, I've been doing this a long time, and I teach the practitioners to do this. I would imagine, well, how would I feel if I feel a lack of control? I would probably feel terrified. I would feel nervous or terrified or uneasy or apprehensive. So I don't assume it's one of those, but I'm just going to say those are some possibilities. And Ashley can see if any of those kind of capture. Usually when we name it right, something clicks inside and we're like, yes, that's it. So yeah, bring it down to one word. Great question. Once you've found that one word feeling, where do you feel it in your body? So, and there's no right or wrong on this. Your head, your heart, your belly, your throat. Could be a bodily area, or it could be a posture, like slumping over or eyes downcast or anything like that. Yep, heart. It's usually in the torso, but remember the head is also part of the body. So especially things like confused could be in the head. And there's no right or wrong. Sometimes someone will feel something in their left hand. Even things like anger, just to give you some perspective, it's not uncommon to feel anger in the hands. Why is that? It's because anger as an emotion is a getting ready to do something, either to fight or to manipulate something or to turn the wrench or to do something with your hands. So, or you can feel it in your feet. What is that about? Well, maybe running away. It's kind of this readiness reaction. So again, there's no right or wrong. We don't assume it, but it could be anywhere. Once you feel it and find it in your body, what happens? It kind of intensifies it. Okay. Anger in the vocal box. Yeah, exactly. Okay. And then just to kind of round this out, what's the negative thought that goes with this feeling? And there's no right or wrong, just could be a negative thought about yourself, like I don't have enough time, I don't have enough money, whatever it is. Right. How the heck am I going to get all this done? Like Katie says, absolutely. So could be a negative thought about another person also. But yeah, not enough time is one of the most common that people feel. So It's not fair. Yeah, that's a common one as well. Not going to be a slave forever. Right. So it's really just to kind of helps to flesh it out. Okay, so now we have our image, which is the current situation, the feeling, the body, the thought. Now we're ready to smell our oils, guys. Which I know is what you guys really want to do, is smell the oils. So now, the way we do it in Aroma Freedom is we just take a drop and we put in our palms. If you haven't yet pre-mixed them, you could put a drop of frankincense, a drop of lavender, a drop of stress away. It's okay in any order, or you could pre-mix them or use any oil you want at all. I have Shutron right here, one of my all-time favorites. I'm going to put a drop there. And just rub your hands together. Just cup your nose and breathe. Breathe the oil into that situation. So you're feeling that feeling, you're picturing the situation, and you're actually breathing the oil into that picture. You just do that for about a minute or a few seconds, however long it takes. And as you do, slow, deep inhalations, you just notice what's happening. Notice what's happening in the image. Notice what's happening in the feelings and in your body. And just do that until you feel like something has shifted. Take as long as you need to. Once you've noticed something shifted, go ahead and just type in the chat box what you noticed. Did the image fade? Did you get a new perspective? Did the emotion shift? Just type in what you noticed. And those of you who are still processing, take a little longer. Just breathe the oil into the situation. Yeah, Sonia says it faded. Julie says a lot of clarity on the situation. Yeah, absolutely. Some clarity can come in. Image fades, body relaxed. Yeah, what else did you guys notice? Some other emotions emerged related to the situation. Remember, I said that can happen. Sometimes one emotion will clear, we'll go back and there's another one that may have to clear. Better perspective. Yep, image and physical fades. Oils are giving me a headache. Okay, if there's a few possibilities there, if the oils are giving you a headache, it could be that it's triggering some stress and emotion that might dissipate as you continue to do a few more rounds of this. It could also mean that you need to drink some water and maybe smell the oils a little bit, not as close to your nose. Took control back of situation from another's control. Emotions changing and moving around. Yep. This realization, I always manage to get things done, feeling calmer, less tension in my throat. Heart started racing. Yeah, so then sometimes it's going to actually take you deeper into emotion first before you come out the other side. No worries, we're going to keep working with that. Okay, so then as I said, at the end of the sixth step is deciding what to do. So it could be that you feel totally clear. This slide actually is more for the boost, but the principle is still there. So you're either going to be a 1, 2, or 3 here. So if you feel like this totally cleared, that you feel like Layla said, thought faded, almost forgot why I was doing this. Yeah. So put down a number 1 if you feel like it totally faded and you're just ready to get on with your day, then you're a 1. Okay, and put down a 2 if you feel like, well, something shifted, but there's still something else there that it needs to shift a little more. And then put down a 3 if you feel like you stumbled into a hornet's nest and it's actually a bigger issue. You're going to need to do a full AFT session later, then you might be a number 3. There's no right or wrong again. And yeah, so you'll see here, we get this variety of responses, right? We got some 1s, we got some 2s, we got some 3s. So I tell you this just so that you can be aware, any of those are good. Any of those is progress, right? Obviously, it's great if you're a 1 because you just move on with life. If you're 2, it means you've identified another feeling to clear. And if you're a 3, that's great, because now you know what you need to really work on in your life, which maybe you didn't know before. Okay. Okay. All right, so we're going to do another round. So again, if you're doing it on your own, and you feel like it clears after one round, you just get on with life. Like what happened with my wife. It was in a very, we caught it right after it occurred. It was a quick response with the cat. She cleared it. We got on with life. We went back to folding clothes and doing Saturday things, right? Okay, but so if that's you, then we're going to do another round. You can just choose something else to do a reset on. But if you are guys are a 2 or 3, then we go back to the beginning. Think of that same situation and name the feeling you feel now. So it's likely going to be a slightly different feeling. Could be a less intense version of the previous feeling or more intense. Like it could go from terror to nervous, or could go from anger to sadness, whatever it is. So name the feeling that you get now when you think of this situation. Okay, just type in the chat what you're feeling where it is now. And even if it's a positive feeling, that's okay too. We can use this as a positive. Like in this case, Juliet, it's compassion now. Okay, so we can still, even if it's positive, we can still run through the same sequence. What's amazing with this is if there's a negative or unpleasant feeling, and we clear it out, it gets better. If we start with a positive feeling, it's not like it gets worse. Positive feeling, it just enhances. Debbie says, what would it, if it's almost comical, but it isn't, if it makes sense? Really? Seriously? Eye rolling? So kind of like this, eye rolling. So that feeling would be something like incredulous, or it could also be something like dismissive, or contempt. Could be a few different possibilities there. Okay, so hopeful, revolted, sad, love, disappointed. Yeah, okay. So once you have that, find it in your body. Remember, all feelings are in the body. Once you found that, pull in the negative thought. What's the negative thought? If it is negative, now it's possible it's a positive thought if you're already in that positive side. So we don't really care if it's negative or positive, but what is the thought that goes along with that feeling? Yeah, so Lee said, overwhelm. At first it was self-doubt. Once I cleared that, I realized there's so much more to learn. So it's a good direction, hence overwhelm. So this is an example of sometimes a good response leads you to another problem, which is now there's so many things to learn, I'm overwhelmed. So you got to keep clearing. And that's really why this never ends. We want to keep using these processes. Kathleen's asking, should the positive feeling be in the same place as the negative feeling? No, not at all. There's no right or wrong on where the feelings are. We're just noticing. We're not expecting it any particular place. Okay, so once you've pulled that up, grabbing your oils again. So you could use the same exact oils. Often the reset, we just use one oil every time. That's fine. However, if you like most oilers have 50 oils in front of you, you could choose just another one that draws you. The classics in Aroma Freedom. Of course, we use Memory Release Blend. We use Trauma Life, but even Inner Child is great. Or Release. So many choices. And just breathe the oil into the situation. Just do that again. Again, just hands and palms. Oil in your palms. Just breathe the oil. And you can't really use too many oils. If you're new to oils and you start getting a headache, it could be that you're detoxing, so slow down. But other than that, They aren't going to hurt you. Cindy says, jaws clenching, feeling like I need to get moving and do things. Okay, so great example of how we're going to get into the boost in a minute, which is once you get clear, you want to get into action. We'll get into that. So just breathe into the situation until you notice a shift. I'll be right back. Once you've noticed a shift, just type in the chat box what you notice. Yeah, Cynthia says a 2 is shifting more towards a 1 because I moved into acceptance. Yeah, that's exactly right. Exactly what happens. This is what it means to reset, right? Before we've reset, we're not in acceptance because we're hung up on something. We're still agitated about something, or we're still frustrated or overwhelmed. After something's reset, means you've accepted it, you're moving on. Just like my wife was able to accept the fact that I reached for the cat aggressively, but she's able to move on because you realize no harm was done, everything's okay. So think of situations in your life that you're stuck on. You're stuck on them if you keep ruminating about them, thinking about them over and over, something about it you haven't been able to accept or release. But rather than me giving you some theories about what that might be, why that might be, we just do the process. So I'll tell you this, all these aroma freedom processes have made my job 100 times easier. When I'm working with clients, I just follow the process. Now, there are, obviously there are some things that you have to work with to get a person to the right starting point in the process. But once you're in the process, let the process do the work and you just sit back. Kathleen says, my image of sitting in front of the person even changed. Yeah, so the image itself can transform. We'll find this in traumatic memories. We'll find the memory actually changes and it's no longer what it was. But also in the present moment, you literally are perceiving it differently. Okay, so yeah, so now you guys are already, I can tell you're already starting to think in the positive here. Katie says, I'm so grateful to get to do the things I need to do. Yeah, isn't that a shift? Grateful to get to do the things I need to do instead of, oh, I have to do these things. Lisa's a desire to talk to a mentor and develop a strategy that works for me for self-reflection and documentation post-teaching. Yeah, perfect example of there's a new possibility, but also an awareness that, maybe I need some help with this. So I'm going to reach out, I'm going to find the tools, going to find the skills, find the help. That means you're moving in a positive direction. Yep, the image doesn't have negativity around it. Beautiful. Okay. Good. So, again, you can look and see if you're a 1 or 2 or 3. So if you're a 1, then that means that you've now basically cleared it. It feels like when you think about it, you don't feel any negative charge. If anything, you feel some excitement about what's next. Like Tammy says, I have energy to proceed. A 2, means that, usually 2 rounds will do it unless it's a really big issue. So you could still be a 2 and there could still be more to go clear. Or a 3 is you could realize, yeah, I still need to really dig in a deeper way. So, okay, so that's your aroma reset. So what I want you guys to do is to practice that this week. And again, you have your instructions right here in the book and just follow along. You can make a commitment to every day, do a reset every day. The morning is a great time to do it. I do it in the shower. I think about my day. Is there anything about this day that's less than a 10? Let me do a reset on that. And of course, if I use my, lavender mint shampoo, I can just be, lathering up and then breathing the oil in. Actually, we have a Copaiba vanilla. That's even better for AFT. That's the best. So yeah, I encourage you to do the 7-day challenge on this. This is something we do in the certification as well, because we want people to really get into the habit. It's only going to work if you use it. So, okay, so what's one word that describes how you feel right now? Put it into one word. And again, that's always a good challenge because it forces you to be very aware of the feelings. Calm, acceptance, optimistic, confident. Okay, perfect. So positive, hopeful, relieved. Yeah, so isn't that amazing, you guys? It took longer because I was guiding you through it, but once you get this down, literally 60 seconds, and you take yourself through the process. Maybe it takes 2 or 3 minutes if you have to go a couple rounds. Who doesn't have 2 or 3 minutes? By the way, this is also a great way to introduce people to the oils because, you know, if you're at a booth or talking to people or in line at the grocery store or anything, you know, if you say, oh, do you have an hour to sit down with me and I can show you how the oils can affect your emotions? They'd be like, I don't have an hour. You say, do you have 60 seconds and I can show you something that could transform your life? Most people have 60 seconds. Everyone does. Okay, so where do we go from here? So the reset kind of stands on its own as its own little process. However, as many of you realized, and we see in the chats here, after you've reset something, usually there's this feeling of enthusiasm and energy, like, I want to go work on this project now. I want to go do the next thing. In fact, how many of you are already thinking about the next phase of a project related to what you just were thinking about? It's spontaneously what's there. So this is kind of what led us, me and then my students, we were working together. And, you know, as I was thinking this through, that we kind of needed a technique. Let's be more intentional about, instead of just leaving the reset where it is there something we can do to actually harness this energy and move it in a forward direction? So that's what the Aroma Boost is. So let me talk a little bit about this. So the Boost is in chapter 12 of the book, and you get the instructions for the Boost, which we'll go over. The first 6 steps of the Boost are basically a reset. It's the same exact thing. And then we just added some more steps afterwards. I also get into the science of procrastination and how Aroma Boost can help with that. The main concept here, there's 2 main concepts in procrastination. So the Boost is especially good when you're procrastinating about something. The reset you can use anytime that you're feeling really any negative feeling about any situation. And sometimes this will naturally turn into a Boost. However, if you're procrastinating about something, you can just go right into the Boost because you know that's exactly what you need. There's 2 main qualities I talk about on page 258, procrastination. And this is something that is in the psychological literature. When I was researching this about a year and a half ago, actually writing the book. One is task aversiveness, and 2 is failure to consider future self needs. So task aversiveness basically means when you think about a situation that you're avoiding or procrastinating, one of the reasons is because it's aversive to you, which means that when you think about it, you feel repelled from it. You don't want to do it. There's something about it that feels unpleasant. That's what aversive means. Basically, it's unpleasant. But it's more than unpleasant. It's unpleasant and it kind of like pushes you away. So you avoid. So it's aversive. Now, the key thing here is that tasks can be aversive for a variety of reasons. It could be aversive because it reminds you of something else that you did in the past that was unpleasant. It could be aversive because you're afraid that you're going to fail doing the task. It could be aversive because you're overwhelmed. So here we get into, in this slide, why do we procrastinate? Overwhelm is one of the biggest. Not knowing how to get started, so we haven't broken it into steps. But perfectionism is one of the very biggest reasons. It's that feeling like, well, I'm not going to do it perfectly, so I can't even get started. I'm kind of stalled out. Maybe lack of belief in your ability. Maybe you have trouble tolerating boredom, and it's a task that requires you to do something that's not very stimulating. Maybe you're giving into distraction, doing other things, just having trouble maintaining your motivation, or maybe fear that you're missing out on something fun by focusing on the task at hand. So, you know, you don't want to be inside working on your taxes when everyone else is outside playing Frisbee. right? So could be any of those. I have a little slide here that kind of captures what's true for most people. This is from Calvin and Hobbes, and Calvin's a little boy, and Hobbes is his pet tiger. Well, it's a stuffed animal tiger, but so Hobbes says, do you have an idea for your story yet? Calvin says, no, I'm waiting for inspiration. You can't just turn on creativity like a faucet. You have to be in the right mood. He says, what mood is that? He says, last minute panic. And the reason I mentioned that, it's because remember I said that emotion is the driver of behavior? Well, this is exactly it. Panic, and it's true for a lot of us, that feeling of panic gives us the energy to do the thing that we've been avoiding. So that's all well and good, but at the same time, panic is not very much fun. It's not very pleasant. And we don't do as good of a job if we're doing something in a panic versus if we are able to sustain that motivation to get something done better, right? So we kind of boil it down to this. To move into action, we have to be able to master our moods and motivation. So we basically have to clear out our current stress state, which is what we do with the reset. And then we anticipate the positive state that's going to occur during or as a result of the task. It has to feel real to us, something we can picture, and so exciting we can't wait to feel it. Now, some of you guys were already starting to tap into that, right? You were starting to feel enthusiasm and excitement to do this thing that formerly you were kind of resisting doing. So some of you guys are already experiencing this overcoming of procrastination, right? Ideas come to mind. Yeah. So what we do with the boost is we do a reset. We do a couple rounds of a reset. We clear out our aversive feelings, the overwhelm, the frustration, the fear, whatever it is, until now, when you think about that task, there's nothing negative there. So now we take the next step. So think of the first 6 steps of reset we already did. Now we're into the boost part, step 7. For the situation that had been previously overwhelming but is now feeling manageable, what is the next step needed in this situation? So go ahead and use the example that you just started with, even though you weren't necessarily doing a procrastination, because you already did a reset. Let's just work with that. So think of what you just cleared and identify for the situation that you were just upset about that's now feeling better. What is the next step needed? So sometimes it's the full step, like let's say if you've been resisting doing your taxes, it could just be sit down and do my taxes. Or you could realize that really it's the very next step, which is just, I need to organize my documents, or I need to clean my desk. You may have to break it down into the smallest next step necessary. And that's a lot of what we do as psychologists, is we help people break things into small enough steps that you can do it. So find what the next available step is. Yeah, Lori says, call Sherry. Yeah, so whatever it is, placing a phone call, doing something, whatever you need to do, make a list of steps. Yep. Okay, so now here's where we're going to start building our motivation towards doing this. So now picture yourself, step 8, picture yourself doing the step and name the positive feeling that you're going to have. So what's the positive feeling you're going to have when you do this? And usually it's easy to name the positive feeling. It's not difficult, but and it doesn't have to be fancy name: happy, satisfied, joyous, grateful. Relief, that's a very common one. Finally feeling relieved doing the thing that's been weighing on you, you're going to feel relief. Excited is a great one. Yeah. How are you going to feel? Remember, we're starting to tap into that feeling and the emotion as the driver of this behavior. And as with the negative things, the feeling gets intensified when you can feel it in your body. So whatever this positive feeling is, relieved, satisfied, exuberant, find it in your body. Where do you feel it in your body? Yep, heart, shoulders. And what we're doing is we are working towards a very specific type of affirmation. And it's right here in the steps, you'll see. Step 10, create an affirmation that integrates all these elements. So this is kind of like, remember Mad Libs we used to do in the car as kids? Just fill in the blanks here. I feel blank in my blank as I blank, right? I feel joy in my heart as I complete chapter 1 of my book. I feel satisfaction in my smile as I call prospects I met today at the expo. Whatever it is. There you go. And you write it down. Like Katie says, I feel energized in my entire body as I start my day with a positive mindset and get at least 5 tasks marked off my get to do list. Yeah. I love how she put get to do list instead of have to do. That's a nice little verbal tweak there. That's great. Okay, so go ahead and work on your affirmation. Use this exact format. And then if you choose to, you can type it into the chat box. What else do we have? I feel relieved in my shoulders as I process all my documents. Great. I feel satisfaction in my gut as I finish all these tasks. I feel hopeful in the future as I organize old boxes of stuff. I feel satisfaction on my shoulders as I schedule my posts. I feel release in my heart and upper stomach and throat as I accept my situation. Yeah, and the more specific you can be, the better. It makes it more real. So the second part of the boost, which by the way, I created the Aroma Boost before knowing this research, but when I went and looked at the research about procrastination, page 258, it mentions the second thing is failure to consider future self needs. So part of why we procrastinate is we can't put ourselves into the future. People are basically bad at doing that, of realizing what, today's Ben isn't good at knowing what tomorrow's Ben is going to have to deal with as a consequence of what today's Ben didn't do, right? So what we're doing here now is by picturing the future and getting into it in a full-bodied way, we are projecting ourselves into the future, which is what's needed to overcome procrastination. So, so just to review, step 7 was identifying the action step, picturing yourself doing it, and naming the positive feeling you'll have, finding it in your body, and then you create an affirmation that integrates all of these elements. And it's all in the book. Okay, now that you have that, let's do our affirmation. So we're going to find a power pose that expresses the energy of this statement. So say that statement to yourself, and you can either sit or stand, whatever you want, and find a power pose that expresses the energy of the statement. So it could be, the classic victory pose. You could try hands on hips. You could try a kind of a strong person pose. You could put hands on your heart. Another really good one is a self-hug. Really anything that fits the energy. So say your affirmation a couple times. Find the bodily, the power pose that really fits this. And then grab an oil to go along with this. Transformation is my all-time favorite for this, but a lot of people love Believe. But you can also use just citrus fresh or lemon or really any uplifting oil. It's truly up to you, whatever you like. The important thing is it's something that helps you feel confident, helps you feel happy. And so just find that oil. You guys know what to do. Oh, Kid Power, by the way, is a fabulous oil if you've never tried Kid Power. Even though it's for kids, it smells like bubble gum. And breathe the oil in, say your affirmation, get in your pose, say it a few times. Highest potential is a great one. Yep. Yeah, if you guys want to share the oils that you like, that's great. And you're saying it and you're picturing it. Remember, you want to pull together the image, the feeling, the body, so you're visualizing this. Sacred Mountain, Valor. Yeah, love it. And this becomes your practice. Once you've done that for a minute or two and it feels really solid, feels really good, just type in the chat how you feel now. What's one word that describes how you feel right now? Feel ready. Yes. Uplifted, empowered, happy. It's great. So here again, this is, although it took longer because I was teaching it to you, but a boost normally takes no more than 10 minutes. And you can go from feeling stuck and procrastinating to excited, energized, hopeful. Think of how much more you would get done if you were able to conquer that procrastination and move into action. So some people, the Aroma Boost is their all-time favorite Aroma Freedom technique. Even though we have the ones for trauma, we have the ones for clearing blocks and everything, full sessions, which is great. You can get a lot of mileage out of the boost. So great. And then there are some tips we like to give. Obviously, you have to actually take action. Just affirming it's not going to get you there. So say your affirmation again in your power pose an hour after the session to make sure you stay on track. You can do things like read your affirmation into the phone recorder, listen to it several times during the day to remind you of your goal, how you feel to achieve it. It's evening now for most of us that are watching. So we may not get to this goal today, but first thing tomorrow, say your affirmation again and just keep saying it every hour until if it's the appropriate time to do it, say it regularly just to keep yourself on track until you get there. So again, this is good to do in the morning or really throughout the day, anytime you want to. Okay, awesome. So any questions about Aroma Reset or Aroma Boost?
Hi.
Hey there.
Hello, Benjamin. Nice to meet you. I have a question. How can we help to someone when they are doing the Aroma Freedom technique and they didn't see nothing? They want to work to forward, but don't remember nothing.
Sure. So she's asking, this is something that happens sometimes. Some people just aren't very visual. So even though you're doing the process, in this case, with the boost and reset, you're working with the current situation, but you're talking more if you're drifting back to a past memory and there's just nothing there. About 10% of the time, people won't see anything. So that's okay. What you do, think of it like the memory complex is like an iceberg. And we see the only part of it and the rest of it is hidden. So work with what you have. So if they have a feeling and if they can find it in their body, that might be enough. So just have them breathe the oils, deep inhalations, breathe into the feeling, breathe it into that part of the body, and just trust that the memory, even though they're not aware of the image, the memory will start to reconfigure just on that. So it's not uncommon, and you can still use it even if there's no memory that comes up. Now, some people, after they start doing Aroma Freedom for a while, they start actually remembering things. There's a surprising number of people that don't remember their childhood, and that could be for a variety of reasons. A lot of people who had trauma don't remember it. It's a survival mechanism. But that being said, it doesn't mean it's not stored somewhere. It just means they don't have access to it consciously. So we just work with whatever's there, work with whatever comes up, and you should do fine.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Great question. Yes, I'm going to post the recording of this in the Facebook group. So if you guys are middle of the night or missed it, then I can do that. Okay, let me just share a couple more things with you before we stop for tonight.
I have another question.
Oh, go ahead.
Why the memory release is lavender, stress away, and frankincense? Or why? Why these three essential oils?
Okay.
Why did you choose, or why? Yes, why?
Sure, great question. So the story behind that is I was creating this process. Originally, I created it in 2016. And I had been using Aroma, hold on. Let me do this. I had been using Trauma Life oil for a number of years. That was kind of the one that Gary created specifically for trauma. So that's what I was using. And but Trauma Life was out of stock. So here I was writing a book on this technique that uses Trauma Life, and it was out of stock. What do I do? So I looked at the starter kit, because the Young Living starter kit has 12 oils in it. And I said, okay, which of these oils is most likely to calm the amygdala, to calm the limbic system? And frankincense, lavender, and stress away were, of all the oils in that kit, those are the three that kind of jumped out at me. So I tried it, and of course it worked. And then I also went a little deeper into the research, which I mentioned in that first book. And there was research behind all three of those of how they all calm the nervous system in slightly different ways. So by combining them, we call it memory release blend. And as AFT took off, it seemed universally loved. It seemed like everyone who was doing that just loved how it worked and loved the smell of it. So so that's the story behind why we use those three. It's a beautiful aroma. Like I said, all the Young Living oils are beautiful. So, there's a lot of oils you could use. Now, there are some oils that are not going to work as well. Something that's really spicy, like oregano or cinnamon or wintergreen or vetiver, they have their place, but they're not going to be as calming to the nervous system. So play around, experiment, use what I suggest first if you have it, because we know it works. But, if you're in a situation where you don't have those, try something else. In the full technique, which we'll talk about, I think on Wednesday. Let me just double check what we're doing. Yeah, Wednesday, the Wednesday morning class, we're going to do AFT, where we get into different rounds of clearing. We might use memory release blend the first round, inner child the second round, release the third round, and I'll explain a little more about why we do that. So yeah, and if any of you don't already use Young Living, just reach out to me and we can help you with that. So I wanted to show you just a couple things, and then I'll let you go for tonight. Peace and calming. Yeah, peace and calming is some people's favorite. Stress away by itself can work really well. So just a reminder for the rest of the month. So we have our Monday evenings and our Wednesday mornings. So this Wednesday, we're doing AFT as a group. I'm going to take you guys all through an AFT session. And the next week, we're going to go into trauma resolution. I'm going to demonstrate this with one person, so you can see what a session would look like to actually dissolve trauma for one person. Then we're going to do Aroma Wisdom as well. And that's a lot of fun. We're going to do one on building Young Living business or other businesses with AFT. We're going to go into grief. Grief is a huge process, and it's a problem for a lot of people, and it's a natural process, part of life. However, many people get stuck there. So this is really good. And I'm going to be reposting these sessions in the Aroma Freedom book Facebook group, which you should all be in. And if you're not in it, just search for it. You should be able to find it. If you have trouble, let me know. And then I left open two more, the last week of the month, topic to be determined. And that'll be basically whatever you guys want, and whatever you want more of, or some other ideas we have. I also wanted to share with you, this is on the Aroma Freedom website. You guys, of course, know about the book. I hope you've gotten a book by now. You can get it on Kindle. We have it on soft cover. It's available as hardcover now as well. For those of you who are really serious about AFT, you might want to get a hardcover. And if you want to bulk order 6 or more, you can do that as well directly from me. I want to also show you over here, I sent out an email about it today. The quick reference cards are, these are these hard laminated cards that we have them for every technique, and they're super handy to just be able to access full color, whichever technique you're doing, just pull out that card, helps you stay focused on it. And yeah, Anne has hers. And but I'm looking through my stock, and the trouble is I have varying amounts of different cards, and I really want to normalize it so I need to place a big order to get some more. And also one of the cards I am out of, so I have that printed out. The TMRT is not laminated. You're still going to get it, so you can use it in a sheet protector, but it's black and white and not laminated. But so what I did is I did a deep discount on these, over 50% off. You can get all 7 cards, $25 for all 7 cards. And if you want to get the original book, if you never got that yet, $5 more, you can get the original book. You can also get it as a digital download, very inexpensive now, just $20. So this is also available to you. I don't ship these outside of the US. The US, the shipping has gotten so crazy for outside of the US that it's like, it doesn't hardly seem worth it, and it takes a month sometimes. So I would encourage you to just print it out yourself. You can get the digital download and print it out. And then the last thing I want to show you also was another favorite we have here, the Aroma Reset booklet, as I mentioned. These are also available as about an 18-page booklet, and it has some different, some of the slides that we showed you. It's basically designed to show, just to introduce people very quickly to the concept of using smell for this. And why we get stuck, and it has all 6 steps. And in the back, you can put your information on. So you can use this for classes. People order them by the 50-pack or 100-pack. I do still have some of these left. So here's the discount prices for these. You can get them in different packs as well. Someone's asking, is the new book available for digital download? Yes, it's available on Kindle right now on Amazon. And Kindle, just so you know, you don't need a Kindle device. You can read a Kindle right on your phone or on your computer or iPad or anything like that. The main difference between the 2016 book and the new book, well, I would say one of the biggest differences is the weight. It's, Rusty's seen it, it's heavy. It's over twice as long. So the original was about 130 pages. This one clocks in at 347 pages. This has just the 1 technique in it. This has all 6 techniques. This has memory reconsolidation, lots of stories. People are telling me that just reading the stories is transformative for them because it just kind of helps, they can see themselves in the stories. So people have asked about it being available in Spanish. That's something I'm going to look into. The first one we do have in Spanish, and I'm going to get that up on Amazon to make it easier for you guys to get that as well. So best way to communicate with me, you can of course respond to any email you get from me. Also, if you go, so this is the website, you see down here, it says, can I answer any questions for you? If you click on that, this creates a, called a ticket. And I encourage you to use this process because tickets stay organized until I answer, whereas emails sometimes fly through. So this is the best way to reach me is to do that online as well. So, okay, you guys, great to see you. And I look forward to seeing you again. So what's kind of fun is at the end, everyone can just take the mute off and go crazy and say hi and bye. And I get to hear your voices, and then we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Have a good
Bye.
night.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. See you next
Gracias.
time.
Great night.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
Thank you. Love it.
Thank you. Bye.
All right.